Good morning. Working with different cultures. This is the topic we'll be discussing today. I've had this topic this week at work and I reflected on it, and I will be sharing my experience throughout the 6 different countries I lived in, the 6 different cultures I contracted, and I hope this will help you understand how the behavior of your work colleagues and how you can work in an international environment, especially if you're looking to relocate or if you are a student abroad who is searching for a job in a new culture. That's the video that will show you how to cope and how to be able to adapt as quick as you can. Stay tuned, subscribe, like, and please leave your comments at the end of this video. So as of each video that I did until now, so what I am at Dubai. This is the media city, a little beautiful lake over here, and these are the Marina Gate towers that you see, and they will be with us throughout this whole video. A very beautiful morning, and looking forward to have this discussion with you guys. So I was in a meeting this week with a C-level executive who had Chinese background, and very surprisingly he was like very quiet during the meeting, and he simply didn't say anything, so just said hello, said the context, and then afterwards he left us to present. So we were able to present, no one interrupted us, and his team was asking questions along the way, and each time we were deflecting some questions towards him, he was again deflecting them towards his team. So it was like a ping pong play, yeah. And living in Dubai, it is an expat city, so you have the different cultures, and there was like 3-4 cultures at least on the call. And at the end of the call, where we were recapping, it was for some of the colleagues, especially the Western colleagues, somehow not understandable why this person, why this executive was so quiet. Was it a sign that he was liking what we're saying, or was it a sign that he is not interested? And also the question, so how did he get to that level if he is not that talkative, yeah? Which is understandable from Western perspective. And the thing is, so I live personally in China, and I have a part of my family who are Asian, so I was able to understand what was going on over there. So in the Chinese culture, and also the Japanese, is very similar. The leadership, so the traits of a leader is to be able to listen. And that's exactly what the executive was doing. He was listening throughout the whole call before making any judgments. And each time the question was asked to him about what is his opinion, he was reflecting to the team because he wanted to hear the opinions of his team. And that's again, in that particular culture, a trait of the leadership. So it's not about, as in the Western culture, about being able to talk, and that's like showing how competitive you are, yeah? No, it's more about listening, and it's more about being able to ask for opinions, and then afterwards you're able to make a better judgment, because you have these colleagues that you hired in your team, and they are all capable, and especially if you hire the A players. So why not hear their opinion, and why don't get their opinion before you make your own decision? This was one of the cultures that I contracted, the Chinese one, and it was really the trigger to film this video. I've contracted, which is quite, I would say, similar in some sort regarding the hierarchy, is the German culture. So the Germans tend to respect the hierarchies and live to the books with it. So if you have a manager, if you are a normal employee, you would listen to your manager. You would not try to like overrun your manager. It is very hierarchical culture. So the thing is, the main difference between both German and Chinese and Japanese cultures is mainly the directness of the Germans. So if you are sitting in a meeting with Germans, you have to get to the point. You have to get to the point very fast, yeah? So your sentence should be really only a certain amount of words, so very short sentences, and getting directly to the point, because otherwise the Germans you will lose them, or they will start asking you to get to the point. And that's when it will get a little bit ugly for people who don't understand the German culture. They're not attacking you as a person, it is more they're asking you politely to get to the point, yeah? So they are very direct. That's part of the culture, and that's the part, to be honest, which I like the most, because they are honest to you, and you know directly that you have to simply be direct also. So again, the key to succeed in Germany is to be direct also, and do not take the comments and the feedback personal, which means that whenever someone is talking to you, just keep in mind he's not attacking you as a person, he's not trying to get you somehow upset. They are just trying to get the work done, and get the work done as efficient as possible, as quick as possible. Now the French culture, where I lived 5 years. So for the French people, it is really what's most important is the flexibility, so the freedom. Because you know, the French in their history, if you look at it, they are the rebels. So they had the revolution back then against Napoleon, and Napoleon himself was a revolutionary. Even Charles de Gaulle, who was the president during the World War II, he freed the country, but then got thrown out by some protests. So it is really having the freedom. So if you are working in a French environment, you will notice that in the office some of the doors will be closed, because the French love to work in autonomy, yeah? So it is very important to have this autonomy time, and to also, if you are managing a French team, to give them the freedom for them to decide. And in the meetings you will be very surprised, it will be very creative. So you will start seeing ideas thrown around the table, and the idea of a meeting is not really to come to the conclusion, which is actually the German way to do it. So come to a conclusion with action items and be very structured. No, for the French it's more about discussing the different possibilities that you could have, and then after the meeting you would be able to make conclusions. And one of the main differences also of the French culture, so everything said is nothing written, so which means they will not commit to anything committed by verbally. It have to be written to be a commitment. So that's something to keep in mind if you are having to work with, if you're working with French colleagues. It is quite I think an efficient work culture on their own terms. So they work 35 hours per week per law. So in private companies, of course the French people work more, sorry, and still, nevertheless, this is, as you can see, so part of the culture to be working at different times, so coming maybe a little bit late to the office, having longer coffee breaks, but still getting the job done. So it's not really about the amount of work that you are putting in, it's about the efficiency and how you're delivering it. And that's something really about so about both the French and the Germans. That's why they are really big economies, because they are able to work very efficiently in a very short time. So they learn at school, yeah, and throughout all their situations in life, how to really get very efficient at doing tasks. So you don't have to stay in the office until midnight or burn yourself out to get the job done. You can do it really in a shorter amount of time, because you are concentrating on the job, yeah. That's very important to note. The last culture that I want to talk about today in this video is the Arab culture, which is somehow similar to in some regions. So yeah, before I jump into the Arab culture, it is very important to note that the Arab world is 22 countries, and they are spread from the UAE, Oman, which are close to Iran, Pakistan, to Morocco, which is next to Spain. So it is really a large geography, and which makes it very hard to really talk about the Arabic culture, because it is really spread, and it is actually, there are multiple cultures within the culture. So for me, being Lebanese, I can talk from the Lebanese side. So sometimes I'm sitting in meetings with Arab people, and when they are from the region, I notice somehow the same pattern as the Chinese pattern, which is the leaders are somehow quiet, and they're letting their team drive the meetings. And some of the comments that I sometimes hear, that they do not really have the understanding of the problems, or it is that the expertise is missing for some topics. I do not agree with this. It is somehow similar. They're trying to listen again before they make their own decisions, and they will consult with their team who are driving the meeting afterwards to come up with a decision. Of course, with the Arab culture, there is, the part of the Arab culture where I come from, it is all about networking. So you need to establish the connections, even if not to the executive themselves. You need to have the buy-in of the team around the executive, and this will make a big difference, because if you have the buy-in of their teams, you will be able to get the deal, or the presentation will be successful, and as you have wished. So one thing about the Arab culture which differs from the French one, or the German one even, it's having also the private life and the work life somehow combined together, yeah? Which means, so it is somehow normal for you as an Arab employee to meet with your boss on the weekends, for example, or on like after work, you'll go out together. And this is not the case in the French and German culture. So it is really not common for you to go and visit the house of your boss in France, for example. Yeah, that's really like a no-go even. So that's something to keep in mind. So if you are working with Arab people, it is quite normal to have the private level relationship, even with your work colleagues. Even it is expected from you to have these type of relationships, but do not. It is a good thing, or so it is really depends on you. So for me, I really struggle with it, to be honest, because I learned it from both Germany and France to separate completely my private life from my work life. So colleagues at work, but they're not friends afterwards. I mean, you could develop friendships, but really not to the extent that you visit them and you're also with them on the weekends and so on. In the Arab culture, so I remember my dad when he used to, he was a director of a university, and our home was always full with his employees who came each day to visit, and it was like, for me, it's maybe traumatizing even, because I did not get to see my dad as often as I would love to, because he was always busy with the people visiting us at home and accommodating all these people. So really interesting work culture, which is completely different from the Western one. It has some similarities with the Chinese, Japanese one, but yeah, still somehow on its own, yeah, which is normal. Yeah, so it is quite interesting. Just have a look at it next time in the meetings, and look at the different cultural backgrounds, and you will start really identifying different patterns that, and you will start maybe understanding what I'm talking about in this video, because that's really quite interesting now in the globalized world, to see how different cultures interact together. And it is really key to be able to understand and work and get along with these different cultures. So for me personally, how I'm able to do it, so working with all these different cultures around me, it is first is respect. So you need to respect the person, you need to respect the culture that they're coming from, you need to respect that this guy had also his own struggle, you know. He worked his whole life to get here, and it's not obvious that that people get to management levels and even get to move countries and work abroad. So that's the one part, respect. And so the second fold to how to cope with different cultures is being able to really listen. So really listening, yeah, which is very simple, very easy. Just listen, try to understand what is this person trying, what message is he trying to convey, yeah. And if this person is not speaking, either you can ask them to speak, or you can get them on a call afterwards, one-on-one, and just ask them what was their opinion about this whole meeting and the whole discussion that is going on. So it's nothing wrong about it, just to stop, take a pause, listen for once, try to understand this person. If they're not speaking, go to them directly and ask them. And just make sure that you don't get disrespectful by calling them out in calls, because this could be seen as very aggressive in some cultures. So just be sure that this person is if you don't know them, just avoid calling them out directly, and go more into the direction of having a one-on-one and a very friendly discussion where you ask them about their opinion. This is very powerful. So the power to listen is key, and power to analyze and reflect directly during the call. That's also key for you to understand the contribution and to understand the opinions of different people. And that's what will make out of you a great leader or a great manager at one point. So here I know the differentiation between leadership and management, don't worry, but listening is key for any position that you'll get in your life. So the third thing, so each time you are sitting in a meeting with different cultures, it is somehow a negotiation. So in each situation in your life, you're negotiating. You're negotiating with your wife. If you have to wash do the dishes or wash or whatever, and also with your boss, you're negotiating on a daily basis if this task is yours, is not yours, if you did your task correctly, not correctly. So please keep this in mind. It is always an ongoing negotiation, and you need to master these negotiation situations. And you can master them by understanding, so again by listening, so understanding what the person is trying to convey, and also by getting yourself at the speed and respecting the people around you. So negotiation, will be mastering the negotiations once you respect the first two rules I mentioned before. So these are my 2 cents about this particular topic. I'll try to also deep dive into the different cultures in the next videos. And yeah, I would really recommend for you the Culture Maps book, which I read recently, or to be honest, my wife read it and told me about the content, but it is really interesting in this particular situations that you will face at your workplace. So stay tuned. I hope this video opened your eyes about how to be even open-minded with such situations. And yeah, I hope to see your comments, your likes, your subscriptions to this channel. I'll try my best to keep posting some really relevant content for you, and please help me get to the points where you want me to touch on. Yeah, so if you have any specific topic, just write them down in the chat, and I'll try to cover them. So have a nice day, guys.